You tell yourself it happened years ago. You remind yourself that you're an adult now, that you should be over it, that dwelling on the past won't change anything. You try to focus on the present, practice gratitude, think positive thoughts. But still, in quiet moments, that old pain surfaces like a splinter working its way to the surface of your skin. You can only understand it, integrate it, and finally let that younger version of yourself know that the danger has passed. But here's what everyone gets wrong about healing. Your past doesn't hurt because you're weak or because you're not trying hard enough to move on. Your developing psyche tried to make meaning of it. Your young mind asked, "Why did this happen? What does this say about me? Am I safe? What do I need to do to prevent this from happening again?" But they were never meant to be permanent truths about reality. But it's still running your life today. They were survival strategies. Attempts to understand and control a confusing, sometimes dangerous world. Your past hurts because it's not actually in the past. This is why you can understand rationally that not everyone will abandon you, but still feel panic when someone seems distant. This is why you can tell yourself you're successful now, but still hear that inner voice telling you you're not good enough. That pain you think you should be over by now, it's not a memory that's haunting you. If you decided people couldn't be trusted, you might have become fiercely independent, never allowing yourself to need anyone. But they also keep the original wound active, because they're built on the foundation of those early, painful conclusions about yourself. If you learn that your emotions were too much, you might have become the calm, rational one who never shows vulnerability, while your adult brain knows that you're safe now, that you've survived, that you have more resources than you did then. Your nervous system is still responding to those early conclusions about danger, safety, and your worth. This wound continues to hurt because it never received what it needed at the time. Understanding, validation, safety, or simply someone who could help you make sense of what was happening in a way that did unblame you, or make you feel defective. Every time you avoid vulnerability to prevent betrayal, you're confirming the conclusion that people can't be trusted, that understanding what happened should be enough to make it stop hurting, that focusing on the present should override the past's influence. Every time you suppress your emotions to be acceptable, you're validating the idea that your authentic self is too much. It's a part of you that's still trapped in that moment, still trying to make sense of what happened, still waiting for someone to understand why it mattered so much. It's still trying to protect you from threats that may no longer exist, still interpreting current situations through the lens of old pain, still waiting for resolution that never came. You can't present moment your way out of conclusions that are still actively shaping your perception of the present moment. The goal is to help that younger part of you finally receive what it needed then: understanding, validation, and a new interpretation of what happened that doesn't leave you carrying shame, fear, or the burden of trying to prevent something that's already over. You can't get over something that's still actively shaping how you see yourself, others, and the world. And those interpretations, formed when we were young and didn't have the cognitive tools to fully understand what was happening, become the lens through which we see everything that comes after. Alfred Adler understood something profound about human development that most people miss. We don't just remember our past experiences, we interpret them. When something painful happened to you as a child or young person, your mind didn't just file it away as something bad that happened. A child who experienced neglect might conclude, "I'm not important." A teenager who was betrayed might decide people can't be trusted. A young person who was criticized might determine, "I have to be perfect to be acceptable." Adler called the conclusions you drew your private logic, the personal, often unconscious set of beliefs about yourself, others, and life based on your early experiences. These conclusions made perfect sense given what you experienced and the limited tools you had to process it. Here's the crucial part. That private logic was created by a younger version of you, who didn't have access to adult understanding, emotional regulation, or the ability to see the bigger picture. Your nervous system doesn't operate on the same timeline as your logical mind. This is why you can know intellectually that your childhood is over, but still feel your body tense up when someone raises their voice. The part of you that got hurt is still operating from the same private logic it developed back then. At the heart of most persistent emotional pain is what Adler called the inferiority complex, not because you actually inferior, but because early experiences left you feeling that way. Over time, you developed what Adler called compensation behaviors, ways of being designed to prevent the original pain from happening again, or to prove that the conclusions your younger self drew were untrue. If you concluded you weren't important, you might have become hyper-responsible, always putting others first to prove your worth. These compensation patterns served you. They helped you navigate difficult circumstances and often led to strengths you carry today. Every time you prove your worth through overwork, you're reinforcing the belief that you're not inherently valuable. Most approaches to dealing with old pain operate from the assumption that you should be able to think your way out of it. But this misunderstands how deep change happens. You can't logic your way out of something that was never logical to begin with. The goal isn't to forget what happened or pretend it doesn't matter. Here's what I want you to understand. You're not broken, and you're not weak for still carrying this pain. You're loyal. You're loyal to a younger version of yourself who needed someone to care about what happened, who deserved to have their experience acknowledged and understood. That pain you carry isn't a sign that you haven't healed properly. It's a sign that part of you is still waiting for resolution, still hoping that somehow someone will finally understand why it mattered so much, why it changed you, why it still affects you today. The reason traditional advice like just get over it or focus on the positive doesn't work is because it asks you to abandon that younger self. What if instead of dismissing that younger version of yourself, you offered them the compassion and understanding they needed then but didn't receive? To dismiss their experience as unimportant, to pretend that what shaped you so fundamentally somehow doesn't count. But what if instead of trying to get over your past, you tried to understand it? Your adult self can tell your younger self, what happened to you was wrong and it wasn't your fault. You did nothing to deserve it. The conclusions you drew made sense, but they were based on limited information. What does this part of me need to feel safe? How can I honor that need while also moving toward what I actually want? You're safe now. You're worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. Instead of seeing it as evidence that you're not healing fast enough, you can see it as information about what still needs attention and care. Healing isn't about erasing your past or becoming someone completely different. It's about recognizing when your private logic is running the show, and consciously choosing to respond from your current reality rather than your historical fears. It's about updating the conclusions your younger self drew about what happened. A part of you that got hurt might be very young, while the part of you reading this is adult and has resources that younger part doesn't know about. The goal is to become someone who was hurt and has learned how to carry that experience with compassion, wisdom, and integration rather than shame, fear, and fragmentation. It's about helping that part of you understand that while what happened was real, it hurts because part of you is still trapped there, waiting for someone to finally understand that what happened mattered, that someone is you. And did matter, it doesn't have to define your worth, your safety, or your possibilities moving forward. This means acknowledging that what happened to you was significant, that it made sense for you to be affected by it, that the conclusions you drew were reasonable given your age and circumstances at the time. But it also means helping that part of you see what they couldn't see then, that what happened wasn't your fault, that it didn't happen because something was wrong with you, that you deserved better than what you received. One of the most powerful aspects of this approach is recognizing that we all have different parts of ourselves that were shaped by different experiences at different ages. Healing happens when these parts can finally communicate. When your adult self can offer your younger self the understanding, protection, and perspective they needed then. This process isn't about dramatic breakthroughs or sudden transformations. It's about slowly, gently updating your internal operating system. It's about noticing when you're operating from compensation patterns and asking yourself, what is this behavior trying to protect me from? Understanding why your past still hurts doesn't make the pain disappear overnight, but it does transform your relationship with that pain. The goal isn't to become someone who is never hurt. Your past doesn't hurt because you're living in it.